In 1927, on a beautiful stretch of the Dorset coast, a mother of three walks into the sea and drowns. 55 years later, Sue Roberts hears about the manner of her grandmother's death for the first time. As she delicately prizes further information from her unstable mother, Sue learns that her kind-hearted father has forbidden all discussion of the tragedy. In fact, he has never even allowed his mother's name to be known. But never is a word Sue cannot accept. Hello, my name's Andy Miller, and what you've just heard is the back cover blurb from my novel, Never a Word. Never a Word was published early in 2021, and I've been delighted by the early reviews that have been appearing. The book opens in the early 1980s when Sue is in her mid-30s, married with a young family and living in the north of England. Her parents, Avril and Les, are visiting over the Christmas period, and Sue and Avril are washing up on Boxing Day, and they just have a chance conversation when Sue asks about her ancestors. Ancestry has become quite popular on television programmes at that time. And Avril is very reluctant to talk about her husband, Les's mother, and her death. And Sue suddenly realises that there's something going on that she's never ever asked about. And she draws from her mother the admission that Les's mother had killed herself, had walked into the sea. And Avril is immediately panicked and said, "You mustn't say anything, you mustn't tell your father mustn't know that I've told you." And this raises a number of questions for Sue, and there's no resolution to it. It is all buried, and the years tick on until the next big development. I'm going to read a brief section here to give you a sense of the writing, and this is about halfway through the book. After Sue's father, Les, has died, 2 years later, her mother dramatically shows her a photograph. "What do you think about this then?" said Avril, tossing a weathered brown envelope into Sue's lap as they sat out on an early summer's day in Avril's garden. "What are these?" Sue asked, as she looked inside and found 3 old photographs. "It's her." "Who?" "Your dad's mother, it's her." It was 2.5 years since Les's death, and Avril's distressed insistence that there should be no funeral. And now these photos had appeared. "These are who?" Sue asked again, as she stared at the photographs. "Your dad's mother." So there's some description of the photo, and then a little later Sue says, "Here we are talking about her again, and now that I've got a face, I realise that I don't even know her name. What was she called?" "I don't know. Your dad would never discuss her." "I know you said he didn't like to talk about her, but I mean, when the subject of parents came up, did you ever..." "He never talked about her." "Do you mean he never mentioned her? You were married for the best part of 50 years. Sometimes you must have talked about your parents." "I did, yes, but he wouldn't even mention her. Not even her name or anything, her existence. He never talked about her. Didn't you ask him? Oh no, he wouldn't have wanted me to do that. Sue asked whether she could keep the photographs, anxious that they should not disappear back into the silence. Avril flicked the back of her hand towards Sue and looked away. Was this a theatrical indifference, or was it an embarrassment, or even fear, masquerading as irritation? Sue said that she would make copies, slid them back into their envelope, and then folded it between the pages of the book she had been reading. Driving home that evening through the centre of England, emotions seemed to rock the speeding car. Relief that a face had been found. Pity, more direct and uncontained than she had ever experienced, for a woman wiped away by her own family. By Sue's own family. Excitement at a barrier trampled, anticipation for the first few tracks, anticipation for the first few steps of a track newly discernible. Fear that events so fickle could take it all away again. Guilt at her greedy appropriation. The novel is written as a mystery and also as a family saga, and it covers the period from about 1890 up until fairly recent times. And as Sue's search for her grandmother progresses, particularly through the second half of the book, a whole set of new questions crop up. Early reviews on Amazon by readers have picked out a number of features of the book, which I've been very pleased about. A number have spoken about the nature of the descriptive writing, and I have published poetry in national magazines and won a national competition over the years, so I'm pleased that that comes across in the writing. Also, I've worked in my career as an educational psychologist and was an honorary professor at Nottingham University and at Warwick University, and I've drawn on some of the insights from systemic family therapy and other aspects of my practice and research, and again that's been picked up by some reviewers. And I finally also drawn on my own experience of therapy, particularly eclectic and Gestalt therapy, and have tried to integrate that into the writing as well. But the book remains a novel. It's not a poetry collection, it's not a psychology textbook, but it's a story. And if it's one you'd like to read, this is available on Amazon as a paperback book and as an ebook, and it's also stocked in a selection of local bookshops. Thank you for watching.